Texas A&M is getting two massive returners for the 2025 season that will play a big role for this team.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit about the South Carolina game. It is going to be one where, you know, I think the Aggies should win this one, but South Carolina, time and time again, has found a way to make games against good basketball teams at home interesting. Good news on Jerome Miles, the five-star freshman receiver, and his health. We're going to talk about that in segment 2, but we're going to kick the show off talking about two players that were announced to return to Texas A&M for next season. That is Tyreek Chappell, the corner, and offensive tackle Trey Zuhn. So we're going to talk about both of them and, you know, kind of what they mean to this roster. You know, first of all, they're two veteran players that have been in this program for a while. You know, Tyreek Chappell's been here. It feels like forever, as has Trey Zuhn. Of course, Trey Zuhn's a captain on your team last year, a real leader. A player that, you know, I think that we always felt like Trey Zuhn was going to return for next season. I don't think that was really ever fully in question. I think we felt pretty good that he was going to be back next year. But you never know. You never know what could he be hearing. Could he be hearing from some folks saying, hey, I think it's your time to go to the NFL? I am a believer that Trey Zuhn will be an NFL offensive lineman at some point. Last year, I mean, the numbers, he just really elevated his game last year. And I was thoroughly impressed with the way that Trey Zuhn played in 2024. And I think that his 2025 season could potentially elevate him to a day 2 pick. I don't think that's a crazy statement to think that perhaps Trey Zuhn could be elevated to a day 2 pick. I think it's very, very realistic to see that happening. So, you know, and I mean, once again, he not only is he a captain on your team, but he's a captain on your offensive line. He is the, you know, veteran. Obviously, you've got older players in your offensive line, but he is the, you know, seasoned vet, the guy that's been here for a while, the guy that knows this system. Obviously, it's still a new system, but the guy that knows this program and knows everything. He's been here for a while, and having players like that matter. I mean, I think Trey Zuhn is going to have a season where he is completely dominant. I think that he is more than capable of doing that. I think that every year we see him out there on the field, he continues to get just a little bit better time and time again. And I think that this is the year that he takes that step from really good to elite, one of the top 2-3 tackles in potentially college football. I mean, I think Trey Zuhn has that upside in him. You know, I was watching some film on the offense the other day just to I wanted to watch this offensive line and kind of dig deeper into that. And I mean, every time I watch more highlights, or not even highlights, just plays from this offensive line, I'm more and more impressed with this unit as a whole. But on top of that, Trey Zuhn, I think that he is going to give Marcel Reed a lot of time in the pocket this year. And I mean, obviously, getting Trey Zuhn back is huge because he's a really good player, and we expect him, as I said, to be one of the best tackles in college football. But on top of that, it's now, I mean, and like I said, we did expect him to be back, but now that it's official, we know that he is going to, I mean, your offensive line has a lot of career starts together. You're returning all your guys from last year. So that, to me, matters. I mean, having chemistry with your buddies on the offensive line makes a significant difference. I mean, it really does all the time. So knowing that we often look at this team and we look at this offensive line and we say, hey, it's been a bit of a struggle at times. knowing that is kind of a reality and it got better last year, I think that Trey Zuhn returning is going to help elevate it to the next level. So, yeah, I think Texas A&M is going to have one of the better offensive lines in all of college football world next year. I really do believe that. I think it was, and I still continue to find this funnier and funnier every time I discuss it. But last year when we broke down the offensive line, we talked about, hey, I think it's not, I'm a little concerned. I'm a little worried about it. You lose Bryce Foster and you bring in Collie from Utah and you got some moving pieces and there was concerns. You're moving Basantis inside. There was a lot of concerns, but this unit found a way to be really, really good. And that is a difference maker for this program, which is great to see. Now when it comes to Tyreek Chappell, another guy that, the injury cost him this year. He's back again. He's going to be a starter in this secondary. I think now you've got a lot of players. I think that this probably confirms Des Ricks is heading to the bench to hopefully get a little bit develop. In all honesty, Des Ricks knows he didn't have a great season. The numbers were really rough for Des Ricks last year. And, I think he's the guy that needs to continue to develop. And I think he's going to get another shot someday. And I think that potentially, hopefully that development comes this offseason. And if someone gets banged up, he's ready to go. But now between Humphrey from Georgia, Shaw from Washington, and you've got a lot of guys who can play nickel, can play outside. You got guys that, Chappell is a guy as a flexible player, in my opinion. But I think that, between Will the Blanket Lee, Shaw, Humphrey, and Tyreek Chappell, you're probably fighting for a few different spots. Which is exactly what this article from Aggies Wire says. They're talking about how probably sends Des Ricks back to the bench. Starting lineup will likely feature Will Lee, Julian Humphrey, and Tyreek Chappell. Sophomore Des Ricks, time to develop. And then, Javon Thomas and Bravion Rogers are both going to get more snaps this year. I agree with that. But to me, for the most important thing here is you're getting another veteran back in that secondary. You need Tyreek Chappell to be good. You need the secondary to be good. This is the second season in a row. Last year, and I guess, are we to the point where the 2024 season is last year? Well, I guess not technically it is last year. So, yeah. Last year, and also the college football playoffs over. So, yeah, it's fully last year. Last year and 2 years ago, this secondary was putrid. It was not good, and it's got to be better. And I do believe that if Tyreek Chappell was healthy and he would have been out there for a majority of the season, I do think it would have played a role for this team. I think he could have helped. I think he could have made this roster better. I think he could have made this team better. So, that's my take on the matter. I really do believe that Tyreek Chappell could have likely helped those issues last year. And I think he's going to help those issues this year. So, sometimes I think the most significant additions to a roster are keeping players that were already on your roster. And of course, we didn't expect Tyreek Chappell or Trey Zuhn unless they were going to move on. I could have guessed they were going to come back, but it's still, those are now two likely starters that if they're gone, you're either going to have to get out of the portal, get out of the depth on your roster. It just makes your roster better. It makes your roster deeper. So I'm a little bit more fired up about Trey Zuhn coming back because I'll be honest with you. I think that if he went, he could have been a significant, I would say an early day 3 draft pick, probably. Maybe is he a day 2 draft pick? Those of you that's an NBA draft guys, NFL draft folks, let me know. Do you think Trey Zuhn, if he went this year, could he have been a day 2 pick? So I'm kind of curious to hear y'all's thoughts on that. But yeah, I think that Tyreek Chappell and Trey Zuhn are both going to play significant roles for this team and are going to help out a lot. And sometimes it's more than just their role on the field. They're also veterans that have played here for a while that they're going to help this roster. So big news here. Jerome Miles, the wide receiver who Texas A&M flipped late in the recruiting class, he had an injury. And there was some concern about, hey, will he be able to play next season as a guy that we thought maybe could get some snaps? He's going to be good to go. I'll talk about the update. I'll talk about how he's going to fix into this rotation, and we'll do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our wonderful friends over at Game Time. Attending NFL playoff games is expensive like no other. The energy, the excitement, and the connection with other fans are unmatched. I remember the thrill of seeing my favorite team clinch a playoff win live. It's a memory that personally I'll never forget. Once again, those of you that have heard me talk about Game Time, y'all know I love the Game Time app. It's the best place to get tickets, whether it's to an NFL playoff game, a concert, to go see a comedian. I've literally bought tickets on Game Time for all of these different things. I went with my dad to see Shane Gillis. I'm going to a concert with my mom. My dad and I are going to a basketball game in Nashville in a few weeks. There has been a lot of things that I have purchased tickets to on Game Time in different things, comedians, concerts, sporting events. Anything that I need a ticket to, I'm buying it on Game Time. I love the Game Time app, and I promise y'all will too. You have got to go check it out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So let's read the update on Jerome Miles. This, of course, comes from Aggies Wire. Miles, the only signing not set to make it to campus this winter. He was previously dealing with an injury that hindered his readiness to practice. According to Rivals, Texas A&M insider Landon Rousseau, Miles is set to run track in Draper, Utah this spring and will be ready to join the Aggies this summer to prepare for the 2025 football season. Miles had not sustained his injury during his final high school season. He would have joined the program this spring. Answering the question, which is, kind of why was he not here? Makes a lot of sense. In just 2 games in his senior season, Miles recorded 9 receptions, 246 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I mean, Jerome Miles, to me, is going to be an absolute star for this Texas A&M football program. I mean, I think that he's a guy that we're just going to see have a massive, massive freshman year. He's the 19th overall player in the 2025 class, according to 24/7 Sports Composite Rankings, 6'3", 215. I mean, reading the scouting report on him, he's a guy, I mean, displays excellent athleticism, primary position at the X position, explosive athlete, and verified speedster with numerous strong sprint times, operates more as a straight line athlete, as a route runner and run after catch threat, demonstrates good initial foot and body quickness off the line of scrimmage and shows the ability to consistently create separation, both initially at the top of the route, explosive in and out of breaks, and displays the ability to reach top in speed quickly. Vertical playmaker who flashes outstanding playmaking ability at the top, at the catch point, and is a runner with the football in his hands. I'll tell you this. I think that his projection for the NFL is a first-round pick, and he reminds the folks over at 24/7 Sports of Rome Odunze, former Washington receiver who is now with the Bears. So what I like about Jerome Miles as a player is he has the A.J. Brown type of build at 6'3", 215. I mean, what is A.J. Brown? Let's see. Like, he literally might be the exact same frame as A.J. Brown. Let's check. A.J. Brown might be a little bit heavier, I'd say. Let's see. He's 6'1". I don't know why I thought A.J. Brown was a little bit taller than that. 6'1", 227. So he was going to put on a few pounds, and I think he's going to get to that A.J. Brown type of build at 6'3", 215. If he gets 225, 6'3", goodness, look out. But I mean, I think 215 is a fine playing weight for him. I'm not concerned about it. But I mean, just what I like about the film I've watched on him and the scouting report backs it. He is a player that can do it all as a receiver in a frame of a guy that you would expect to be a 50-50 ball winner. Those 6'3" strong receivers, you expect them to be the guys that are going to win 50-50 balls, and that's just their role. That's just what they do. I think that Jerome Miles is the guy that can run routes. He's a guy that can create separation. And that, to me, is the number one thing. One of my least favorite types of receiver is a player that just, even if they're really good at 50-50 balls, okay. My dad, this is his favorite thing to say. 50-50 balls, okay? Separation, when you have separation, if the football is thrown well, it should be a 90-10 ball. A 50-50 ball means that 50% of the time you catch it and 50% of the time you don't catch it. Okay, let's say you're a receiver that wins 50-50 balls more than you lose them. 60-40, you still losing 40% of the time. Separation is what matters the most at the wide receiver position. And that's why my favorite NFL receivers are Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp and guys that are creating constant separation with route running, quickness, shiftiness. So that's the type of player Jerome Miles is, but in the frame of a guy who you would expect to be a 50-50 ball, I believe he's a guy that can win the 50-50 ball a lot, but he also can create separation. And yeah, I believe he'll be able to do that at the SEC level. So when it comes to how he's going to shape into this 2025, team, I think that with KC Concepcion and with Jonah Wilson and with Craver, I think on top of, Bethel Roman and some of the guys you already have on this roster, I think that he's immediately the first player in your two deep right now. If you watch film on this kid and disagree, I would love to hear why. I mean, receiver is also a position where freshmen just mixed in well. I mean, Terry Bussey last year was really good. Terry Bussey is going to be a great player for a long time at the receiver position for us, but I mean, he was great last year. So assuming Craver, Concepcion, and Bussey are your starting receivers, I mean, in all honesty, I think Jerome Miles might be your next best guy. Would it be the craziest thing in the world? I don't see him overtaking Bussey or Concepcion, but would it be the craziest thing in the world to see him be better than a player like Craver or something? I don't think so. I really don't. Now obviously we have to start talking about slot and outside guys, stuff like that. Miles is obviously an outside guy, but I'm telling y'all, I think that Miles is going like the season. Here's my prediction. The season that Craver had last year at Mississippi State, I believe he had almost 250 yards. Let's get the Mario Craver. I almost called him Micah Craver because of Mike Hudson earlier. Oh, no, he had 368 yards. I think that you see Jerome Miles have more yards than that this year. I think that you're going to see him have – I just do. I think you're going to see him have more yards as a true freshman than Craver did last year at Mississippi State. Miles, I think that you look at pure upside, I think it's him and Bussey. Now, Concepcion to me is a guy, if he comes and puts together a season near 1,000 yards, which will be interesting based on how Marcel Reed develops as a passer and just flat out how much Colin Klein wants to pass the ball. All of those things are going to play a role, but I think it's going to be quite interesting to see how I think Concepcion's an NFL wide receiver. I think he's the guy that can work himself into an early day 2 pick this year. But I mean, the future of this room, like let's assume Concepcion heads on the NFL after this year, which I think is a fair assumption. To think about next year with 2 years from now, with Miles and Craver and Bussey, this is going to be a dominant wide receiver room. So, I mean, this is huge news. Knowing that Jerome Miles is in fact healthy, or he's going to be healthy when he's on campus, and you want him to continue to get healthier and healthier over, while he's running track and doing all that, which I think is great. I love players that, run track on top of playing football. I think it helps you out a lot. But, I mean, this stuff is great, knowing that Miles is going to be good to go for the season for us. Wish he would be here for the spring because I do think that does matter in all honesty. I mean, spring practice is something I think that you need. I wish he was getting those reps. I wish that he was, but I mean, they're valuable, but at the same time, I think he's the type of player that I think he's good enough of a player. He's just going to walk onto campus and be just fine. Learn that now. If he can start learning the system early, that would help. I don't know are there rules on that? Like, is he allowed to learn the system early? I really don't know that. But if he can learn this system quickly, yeah, Jerome Miles is going to play a massive role for the Aggies next season. Texas A&M is getting ready to take on the South Carolina Gamecocks in Columbia. We are going to preview this game, and I'm going to tell y'all why I think it could be just a hair more interesting than many are imagining. We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. So the Aggies are getting ready to take on the South Carolina Gamecocks. South Carolina is a team that right now they, of course, have yet to win a game in conference play. They are 0-8 in SEC play. But at the same time, look at what they did in January, okay? Auburn comes to town. South Carolina loses by 3 points. Then Florida comes to town. South Carolina loses by 1 point in a game where they, in all honesty, blew. Mississippi State comes to town. South Carolina loses by 5 points in overtime. Those are 3 ranked SEC teams that have come to play the Gamecocks in Columbia and been right there, and the Gamecocks just fall short. This team, yes, the Aggies are a better basketball team. There's no question there. But at the same time, this South Carolina team, if we don't show up and play well, is more than capable of winning this game at home. I'm just telling you, they're due for a big home win. So we got to show up. The guy that you got to look out for, to me, is Colin Murray Boyles. I don't know if y'all have watched him play. He's listed at 6'7", 245. On the floor, he looks more like he's 6'8", 6'9". I also was at the SEC Media Day in Birmingham, stood next to him, and I'm 6'6", and I think that he's every bit of 6'7", 6'8". I mean, 6'8", 6'9", I think. So I think they underlist him a little bit, but he's just a unit. He's a big, strong player. It's going to be up. We got to see if we're going to be able to get some guys healthy for this game. Down low, I mean, of course, you played this basketball game without Washington. I think that you're going to really need Payne and Coleman and some of these guys to play well against Murray Boyles because, I mean, he can stretch you. He can shoot the 3 ball. He's a great passer. He's great around the rim. He's an incredible rebounder. He, I think, right behind Broome at Auburn, is the second best big in the SEC. And in all honesty, now I know that South Carolina game, I believe, is when Broome sustained his injury, but I actually watched that game. That's why I'm a believer in this South Carolina team. I think that, in my opinion, Murray Boyles, before Broome went down with the injury, was out playing Broome. So, I mean, you could make the argument that while I think Broome's, yes, the better player, Murray Boyles is right up there with him. So, I kind of want to see that same line. I like the Payne, Coleman, Phelps, Taylor, Obaski lineup. I like having Obaski, Taylor, and Phelps all in at the same time because I think it just makes our offense have a little bit more upside. I mean, those guys combined to give you 37 points in this game, and then Payne, and obviously all your starters are in double digits, but I'm no shade at Hefner, but I just really like those 3 in the starting lineup. I think for a team that needs more offensive production, that lineup gives you just that. So I think that you need that to happen. Need to win this game. Can't lose against this team on the road if you want to have a successful season in SEC play. Big one coming up. Got to go win it. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies and this week here at Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. Really, really appreciate y'all. Have a great rest of your day, a great weekend, and we'll see y'all on Monday right here on Locked On Aggies.